to know if you are asking yourself the right questions. Not knowing how you should practice, not knowing how what you're doing during practice is affecting your progress is actually what's holding you back. So I want to talk about a concept that I discuss in depth in my upcoming book, How Do We Learn? Are you thinking about your improvement? Are you thinking and evaluating your performances? Are you asking yourself questions? So one thing that I still see a lot of my students do during our lessons, and I can tell that they do the same thing when they go home because they come back a week later and it sounds exactly the same, is they're not self-evaluating. They're not asking themselves what they can improve on. So, for example, some of my students still struggle with timekeeping. So they struggle to stay in time, they struggle to not rush their fills, they struggle to keep their bass drum strokes aligned on the grid. And why is that? Because they are not asking themselves if those notes were actually on the grid. They're not using references such as a metronome that will give them a certain structure that they need to follow. And then they need to stop practicing and they need to ask themselves, how did it go? How did I feel? How did the overall exercise sound? Did it feel like it was rushing? Was I rushing? I think I was rushing. You see, your brain will start giving you answers. So what you want to do is spend some time asking yourself questions, thinking about thinking. You want to know exactly what's holding you back, and you don't want to be that guy who goes like, yeah, I just nailed it, everything is correct, for sure. You know what? I'm pretty sure that if you are that person who never corrects anything besides just learning an exercise, do you actually fine-tune it? If you are that guy, I'm 99% sure that every single exercise that you play sounds like an exercise. And that's what's horrible about most musicians, is that everything they play sounds like an exercise. Everything they play sounds like they're practicing. And the worst thing is, they're not really practicing. They're always thinking that they are just performing. So, here are the questions that I would ask myself. First question, how did it go? Okay, so you gotta analyze how the exercise went. You need to ask yourself, did I rush, did I drag, were the dynamics correct? How did it go? Ask yourself that, and your brain will struggle, but it will be able to find an answer. If you don't know the answer, once you ask the question, play the exercise again, now with even more awareness. So ask yourself, how did it go? Second question, ask yourself, how did I feel during playing this exercise, as I played the exercise? Did I feel anxious? Was I out of focus? Was I slouching? Was I tense, shoulders up? How did it feel to play this exercise? Third question, are all the components of this exercise mastered? And by all components I mean mechanics. Is your technique correct? Timekeeping. Are all the notes placed exactly where they should be? Are you respecting the subdivision, or are you just, throwing notes in there and hope for the best? Are your dynamics correct? Are you playing the accents as they should be? And also, are they consistent? Because sometimes what students do is they have one accent at a certain volume, the next accent is a little bit lower, then a bit louder again, then a bit quieter. They just keep like throwing accents in there and hoping for the best. Worst approach ever. Okay, fourth question, is this recordable? Well, ask yourself that question because this is gonna tell you if that exercise is now at such a level, such a standard, that you can actually record it. You can actually play it live. You can, and you will be comfortable with the idea of sitting down, go into a studio, record that exercise, not make it sound like an exercise, and you know that no one forever, for eternity, because it's a recording, right? It's gonna stay there forever. No one for the rest of human life will ever complain about what you played that day in the studio. So ask yourself, is this recordable? Okay, so now that you asked all these questions, you're gonna be in a state of mind of finding answers. That's the approach, that's the method, that's the process. You need to ask yourself questions. So many of you guys, you're watching right now and you're saying, oh, this guy is, yeah, he's got a point. And tomorrow you're gonna sit down and practice and you will achieve nothing. Why? Because you will once again not do the right thing. And doing the right thing is always the right thing. So if you sit down and you practice and you just don't care enough, you gotta ask yourself one last question. How bad do I want this? Guys, playing an instrument is hard work. Playing an instrument at a high standard is virtually impossible. That's why only a few manage to get to that level. So if you are one of those people who want to achieve that level, what are you doing? Why aren't you asking the right questions? Why aren't you writing down, keeping track of your progress? Why don't you have a practice log? Why don't you have a practice plan? Why aren't you doing the right thing? Why aren't you getting that book that someone recommended you? Why don't you bring your material to your lessons? Why don't you have a folder so when you go home you know exactly where your material is and you know exactly what to practice? Why aren't you organizing your practice sessions? Why? See, asking questions is easy. It's finding the answers that is difficult. You need to find those answers. You need to know why you're still rushing those fills. You need to know why your bass drum is still kind of sloppy. I relate to that question. I ask that question to myself all the time. Why isn't this working? Why do I sometimes miss that one? Well, asking the question makes me improve every single day because I'm looking for that answer. So as I'm playing, I'm questioning it. And that's the best thing that you should do. Organize yourself. Ask the right questions. Stop being lazy and ask yourself that question. How bad do you want it? If you just want to play drums as a hobby, and there's nothing wrong with that, then that's fine. You're enjoying yourself. You want to be a professional drummer? You want to pay your bills playing the drums? Well, think about this. If you and I go for the same gig, are you sure that you're going to take it from me? I always have that mentality and I find that incredibly healthy. I see no competition. Drummers are my buddies and in 2 days I'm gonna have a crazy awesome drummers hang here in Leeds. We're gonna watch Matt Gartzke, we're gonna watch Troy Wright, we're gonna watch another guy that I forget the name, sorry. But I don't see drummers as competition. We enjoy each other's company, we are massive geeks, we love drumming. You know why some people don't make it? Because they close themselves at home pretending to be a serious professional and a great drummer and blah blah. You know you are not doing it right, and that's why you're hiding yourself from everyone else who is doing it right. Okay, so if you want to achieve that level, you want to get to that point that you just feel comfortable with your playing, that you know that you can pay the bills, that you know that if you go to a studio you can record those ideas, then you know that you are aware of what you're not doing right. If you're doing all that, you're gonna make it. One little thing that you're not doing out of this whole circle of criteria, you're doomed to be an amateur forever. And you're gonna have to face the cruel reality that you're gonna have to find a job to pay your bills that has nothing to do with drumming. So think twice before you sit down to practice and ask yourself, how bad do I want this? Pump yourself up, get that practice in, and then ask questions about that practice and then do it again. If you don't know how to organize your practice session, go back to that video of mine where I discuss how I organize my practice routines So guys, get serious. This is a wild, wild world. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of dogs for one bone. So, just figure it out. If you're not making it, if you're not doing it right, no one will care. See you guys later. Bye-bye.